भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। So let us So let's read quite a few verses. We will do it from verse number 13 to 21, 8 verses. And the reason for that is I'll explain in a minute, but let's go back a little bit. So we'll start with on chapter 5, verses number 13 through 21. Number 13. Sarvakarmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan nakartritvam nakarmani lokasya srijati prabhuhu nakarma phalasam yogam swabhavastu pravartate nadatte kasyachit papam न चैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञानेनावृतं ज्ञानम् तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानम् येषां नाशितमात्मनः तेषाम् आदित्यवत् ज्ञानम् प्रकाशयति तत्परम् तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानः तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिम् ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः विद्या विनय संपन्ने
Vidya Vinaya Sampanne
Brahmane Gavihastini
Brahmane Gavihastini
Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha
Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha
Panditah Samadarshinaha
Pandita Samdarshina
Ihaiva Tairjita Sargaha
Ihaiva Tairjita Sarga
Yesham Samye Sthitam Manaha
Yesham Samye Sthitam Manaha
Nirdosham Hi Samam Brahma
Nirdosham Hi Samam Brahma
Tasmad Brahmani Te Sthitaha
Tasmad Brahmani Te Sthitaha
Na prahyeshyat priyam prapya Na prahyeshyat priyam prapya No dvejit No dvijet prapya cha priyam No dvijet prapya cha priyam Sthira buddhi Sthira buddhi Sthira buddhi ramudha Sthira buddhi sammudha Sthira buddhi saramudha Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha
Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha
Bahya sarpeshu asaktatma
Bahya sarpeshu asaktatma
Vindati atmani yat sukham
Vindati atmani
Yat sukham Sabrahma yoga yuktatma
Sabrahma yoga yuktatma
Sukham akshayam ashnute
Sukham akshayam ashnate.
So this section from 13 to 21 is a section where the jnanam is emphasized. So jnanam is emphasized. So here, the karma yoga is not the main point, which karma yoga is of course the main thing for the whole Gita, but here the knowledge, the process of the gaining, the effect of the knowledge, the result of the knowledge, the attainment of the various stages of the knowledge, that is given from 13 to 21. And then that section is now over, will be over soon, will be today. So what I would recommend sometime is to go back and review this section of 8 verses, 13 to 21, and look at it as a section to be thought over. So, there are many very good, excellent verses. Perhaps the one that we did last time, which was tad buddhaya tad atmanaha tad nishthaha tad parayanaha, etc., is a particularly important one to review. So I think that and so one of the primary emphasis here in these verses, especially the verse number 17, Tad Buddhayaha, is to recognize, as we were also doing in the previous class just now, is that our identification with my status as an individual person eventually needs to be discarded. So the fact of the matter is that you, the Atma, when we say you, as we were discussing in the previous class also, when we say you or when you say I, we mean you as the real you, not the one that you are identifying with. The whole issue is that of being controlled by what you are identified with. And identification we do many times in our life also. When you say, for example, I am a Republican. So, I am a Republican is an identification. And I take that example because I'm hoping, because I'm a Democrat in my thinking, so I'm hoping a lot of the people who were identified by being a Republican will take this opportunity to get disidentified with being Republican. There's so much gunk going on. They'll say, finally, enough is enough. So now you disidentify. So very similarly too is the case, because of many reasons, you and I are identified with a particular set of coordinates which consist of a body, parentage, mind, tendencies, health, some longevity. This person, this is the jiva. So the Atma is identified with this person. This is the person that you're identified with. Now, when you are identified with that person, that means that all of the laws that govern that identification you have to observe. Namely, for example, the growth of the body, then the decay of the body, thoughts, physiology, physiological functions. All of those are as a result of this identification. Like, for example, supposing you identify as a Republican, then whatever happens to the elections, whether you win or lose, so if you're a Republican and if you lose on election, then you lose. So you are observed by the laws of your identification. So similarly here also, I'm identified with this body-mind, and this identification is total, very pakka, as we say in Hindi. Pakka means it's absolutely solid. But it's an identification. And the only good, beautiful thing here is that you have a chance of being disidentified in deep sleep. In deep sleep, your identification, very consciously designed in such a way that the results of this disidentification is presented to you as a sample. If you're no longer identified as a jiva, then the results of this disidentification are given to you. And as we were discussing in the Mandukya Upanishad, this should really give you encouragement that it is possible. See, but the problem is, we don't even know that there is a possibility of my not being a jiva. I don't have any alternatives. What do you mean? This is who I am. There's an alternative, and that is given to you as a hint every night. And that hint is that you're no longer identified with the jiva. And there's nothing to be scared about that, because in fact just the opposite. We really find it very pleasant to not be identified. We love the sleep. And in fact, eventually then you see that when you are not a jiva, then you are nothing but Parameshvara. You are the Jivatma. You are the Paramatma. So because if you're not a jiva and you are still there, who are you? And so that is the Paramatma. That's what you are. So here in this section of 8 verses starting with 13 through the 21, what you are encouraged to pursue is this disidentification. How to do it, the results of doing it, the process of doing it, all of those things are discussed. This is what is called sannyasa. And in fact, that is the very title of this chapter, 5th chapter, is called Sannyasa Yoga. So yoga here means the skill. It's a skill we have to develop. This is called Sannyasa Yoga. So there we saw the various parts of it. And so, for instance, starting with the fact that when you say we've seen all this, I'm just quickly revising it so we can go forward. When you say you are just like an electricity which is infusing the appliance which is called Jivatma. Jiva, it's called Jiva, not Jivatma. The Atma is infusing. And so this is what you need to say, really? Just like the electricity is totally independent of the appliance, similarly the Atma is totally independent of the body-mind complex. And so that hint is given to you in deep sleep, where you don't really have a body. You don't have a mind also. All the ingredients, the samagri of your identification are suspended. But you're still there. In fact, you're very happy. So through this process, slowly, you are encouraged to pursue in this direction. So this is the nature of this jnanam in these sections. So now we go to a new verse, number 8. And so there, what we said there, another thing here was that in just finishing up number 18, which we did last time, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha Panditaha Samadarshina. Samadarshinaha means that the one who has a degree of being independent of things that seem to control you today. So in fact in number 18 and 19, let's go to both of them and I'll make some commentary about both of them. Let's go to the new verse, number 19, which is also a very important verse in this say. So ihaivat, I'll go back to 18 in a minute, but let me finish doing this because I want to connect a couple of things together. Ihaiva tairjitaha sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmani te sthitaha. Iha eva, here itself, as a living being itself, sarga jitaha. Sargaha means the beginning. So, overcoming the beginning, I'll explain the whole meaning in a minute. I'm just giving you word for word. Taihi, by then, yesham manaha sthitam samye, whose mind is established in sameness. Brahma hi samam nirdosham tasmat te sthitaha. It's Brahmani. So, those people free of the defects get established in Brahman. So let's look at the complete sentence. Here itself, birth is overcome by them whose mind is established in sameness. Brahman is indeed the same and defectless, therefore they are established in Brahman. It's just a translation. Now let's look at the individual parts of it. So this is an important verse because this presents a very interesting concept. And that concept is the fundamental tenet of Hinduism. This is the Hindu Sanatana Dharma concept. So not concept, but it's a fact, but to be seen as a concept. What is that? If you look at the entire body of spiritual thinking and pursuit in this whole world, what you will find is that the fundamental of that concept is you are not totally happy in this life, right? So people say, yep, that's true. We agree with you. We are not totally, you are somewhat happy sometimes, but you are not totally. We can only believe it, but certainly is not here. So it's interesting, somebody had asked me we are on this new Hindi center that will explain this. I'll connect it, but I'm just giving you the introduction to it. So Hinduism does view the concept of belief, but verifiable belief, not non-verifiable belief. How do you say that? What do you mean? What's an example of that? It is very, very much like a high schooler or a middle schooler, a teenager. You ask somebody and they say, it's very interesting. Supposing you have a parent who's a professor of physics, and usually the professors, the parents influence their children a lot. So supposing you have a daughter, and you ask this daughter, what do you want to be? She says, I want to be a physicist like my dad. Why do you want to be a physicist? Because it is so subtle and so beautiful, people love it, and I like physics and so on and so forth. So now look at her. As far as the very finer aspects of physics are concerned, such as quantum mechanics, theory of relativity, and all of that, Einsteinian physics, Newtonian physics and so on. Does she understand it? No. She doesn't understand it. Does she have a belief in it? Yes. This is called verifiable belief, which means that at this point I don't see it as a fact, but I have every reason to believe that if I prepare myself, I'll be able to see it. So we do not believe in non-verifiable belief. that, we cannot tell you, but maybe after, if you just stay with us, then in the next life perhaps you will be able to see it, and in fact you can go to heaven and enjoy it. This we do not believe. In fact, Swami Dayanand used to say that these religious proselytizers are really but sophisticated travel agents. That's exactly what they are. And so there is a brochure given to you with pictures of Hawaii, this, that, or the other. And then you say, by the way, you please give us $1,000 right now. And we'll make a reservation, you'll get included this, that, or the other. And so you believe in it. It might turn out to be nothing. They might take your money and run. But at least you have some belief in it. And that's, in that sense, it's a verifiable belief. But here, this is not a verifiable belief. That we will go to the next life and you go to heaven and so on. Hinduism does not believe in that kind of a belief. So this is encapsulated in the word Shraddha. So the word Shraddha encapsulates this girl in high school who is fully aware that she is going to understand the ultimate in physics that is known to anyone, but not at this point. This is exactly what characterizes Hinduism. It's not as though we are proud of it and we are unique or anything, but we're just saying that be reasonable. You can have freedom in this life itself. Really? How? How is that possible? Because I'm governed by my body problems and so on. There were students last time also the questions, how can I be free of that? Because I have my body is the one who's governing my problems. And the body has problems, those are my problems. How am I going to recover? It'll be done. It'll be done. You just follow this process. And what you find is that you are truly independent of everything. So he says, Iha. So the Iha Ev is a very important one here because it underscores this is what is called Jivan Mukti. In fact, we say the only way to be totally free is while you are alive as a jiva. It cannot be done any other way. Because it's your conclusion through your identification that I am this, and that identification is wrong, and you just have to see the fact that you are independent of that identification. Who is the person who is identifying? That's what you have to pursue. And so this is the title of the word Sannyasa Yoga. Sannyasa Yoga means, so it's interesting, the word sannyasa comes from samyak nyasa. Samyak nyasa. Nyasa means to give up. Samyak means to totally give up naturally. We studied this in the previous class where we made a distinction between vairagya and uparatihi. So vairagya means that you are forcibly trying to reduce your raga, your desire, by controlling yourself, like ice cream. That is not good for me, so anytime I see ice cream, I just totally say, no, I cannot have it. Cannot have it because it's got too much sugar. This is called vairagya. But this is called nyasa. But sannyasa means that I am no longer tempted. that we gave the example in the previous class also, that when a person grows up, you don't have a desire to play with balloons or with marbles. It doesn't mean that you're afraid to have play with balloons or with marbles. If there is an occasion to buy some balloons and so on and so forth, you say, no, not for me. I hate balloons. Not that. You enjoy the balloons, but you don't need to. You've grown up. You have something bigger. So the sannyasa here also is exactly the same, where it is possible that you are transacting as a jiva. You're transacting as a jiva, but your fundamental identification is not with the jivatva. You know the independence of yourself. And it's not as though you say that you have to be dead before you'll be free. No. In fact, you cannot be dead in order to be free. You have to be alive to be free. So the only difference there is that when you transact in life, you are aware of the fact that I am the very basis of all the projections. This has to be learned by vidya, by knowledge, by teaching. And so very much like, in the example of the wave of the ocean, if the wave of the ocean is fully convinced that I am just a wave, then you are very vulnerable, as we have discussed it before. But if the same wave were to understand that my identification with the form of the wave is misplaced, really I am the very water, then, as Swami Dayanand used to say that, is it necessary for you, for all the waviness to be gone before you will understand that you are water? Not necessary. While you are a wave, you can still say, I am water. And if you do that, imagine the transformation of your identification. You will enjoy yourself as a wave. If some other wave insults you, then you internally laugh about it. Wow, you can do anything you want to me, I don't care. I'm free of that kind. Before that, my identification was nobody should bother me. Everything should be very perfect for me. This is what he says. In fact, I'm just giving you some soap. Iha eva tair jitaha sargaha. Leave aside the word sargaha. Yesham samye sthitam manaha. Nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmani te sthitaha. So going back to the examples of the water, then he says it doesn't matter. Once your identification is with the water, which is nirdosham. Nirdosham in the sense that it has none of the defects of the wave. Because the wave is very vulnerable. What's going to happen to me? How long will I last? I don't want other people to bother me. And, Swami Paramarthananda was saying that supposing the wave is near some kind of a sandy beach, it's going to disappear. He says, oh my gosh. But if you're water, then even if you become, if you are evaporated, you'll come back to the same form. If you become ice, it doesn't matter what form you are, it is water. You're secure, indestructible. The entire water content of the whole world is really unchanging, really speaking. It may be in different forms, but it comes back to the same form. And so, very different. So this is, he says, Iha eva tair jitaha sargaha yesham samye sthitam manaha. It is very possible for someone to be free of the identification even though you are transacting. So the example of the wave, the wave may have families, may have friends, but if something should happen, then you are free of the defects of being affected by them. You are the very source of it, the very adhisthana for it, which is nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te stitaha. So now the word sarga, so that's the only one that is left here. So sarga here means, really speaking, it's very similar to the form of the wave, because the wave is actually born. There is a starting point for it. This is what sargaha. We did in the previous calls also the same thing. He says, what was it? Apyayau. Forget that there was a. Anyway, so the birth means death also. I don't worry about too much about birth. I am here, so it's okay. But I very much worry about death. That's what I'm really concerned with. So sargaha, and so means the birth and the disappearance are one and the same thing. What comes up must disappear. If the wave has a sargaha, it will also have a disappearance. But iha eva taihi jitaha sargaha. Just look at the explanation of this. It says the one who has conquered birth and therefore conquered death. How? As the very water. Because in that example, the water has no birth. It is secure. It has a different higher level of reality. So the water has a higher level of reality than the wave. So similarly, the Atma has a higher level of reality than what it identifies with. I have a higher degree, you and I, which is the same, our Atma is the same. We have a higher level of reality than what I am identified with. This is a fact that I need to think about. It's a fact. The Atma is independent of the water, is independent of the wave. The Atma is independent of the body-mind complex. And this fact has to be learned while you are alive. We'll look at this in more detail at some point in time. So this is what is called Akhanda Akara Vritti. Akhanda Akara Vritti. In fact, in one of the treatments of this by Swami Maheshananji, I think the seventh chapter of the Panchadashi, he goes over this in great detail. And in doing so, I'll just digress a little bit here, then I'll come back here and close the tick. He talks about the yogic meditation and nididhyasanam in Vedanta. Okay? So here's what happens. So the yogic system, yoga, Patanjali's yoga, also believes that through these Ashtanga steps, these 8 steps, yama, niyamas, etc., you come up with a nirvikalpa samadhi. Okay? So nirvikalpa samadhi means one which doesn't have any vikalpa. Doesn't have any vikalpa. And then when you do that, it is considered to be moksha for such people. So here is the problem with this approach. This doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because it is almost the same as going to sleep. When you are in sleep, you are actually in nirvikalpa samadhi. There is no change, no vikalpa. But you come out of the sleep with the same sense of limitation as you went to go to sleep. You are not any wiser. Why? Because the fact that I am limited is a thought which is simply kept in abeyance when you are asleep. Then it comes up again. In other words, the seed is still there and the tree of limitation comes back up again. So in the Vedantic Nididhyasanam, what needs to happen is before you do samadhi, your mind has to be awake to understand that the limitations do not belong to me. So this is what is called akhanda akara vritti. This is what is called vritti jnanam. So vritti jnanam alone eliminates ajnanam. Without vritti jnanam, ajnanam cannot be removed. Then when you have meditation, the ajnanam has already been removed. I'm just giving you a technical introduction to it. We will come to it at some point in time. Anyway, coming back to it, iha eva taihi jitaha sarga. So this is, look at this, I'm connecting it back. So this nirvikalpa, this akhanda akara vritti means that the wave, supposing the wave is able to understand that I am the akhanda vritti, but to say that I am the entire water is this thinking. Once that thinking is there, will it ever be completely inundated by the problems of being a wave? No way. So there you will have samana darshina. So this, now we can go to the previous verse. Samadarshina. Samadarshina means, so in fact this is an often quoted verse. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavi hastini shunicha eva shvapakecha pandita samadarshina. Samadarshina means one who sees the sameness in everything. And we already saw the various things, which was Brahmana, the best, then Gavihi, amongst the best amongst the animals. Cow is considered to be the Brahmana of amongst all the animals, because it is so giving, it is so sattvic, has just total love for everything. Very useful. This is why we really worship the cow as a creation of Ishvara in the form of an animal. And so here, when you say Samadarshina, means that all of them look like the same to me. Does it mean that I cannot distinguish one from the other? No, that's not what the meaning is. That everything looks the same to me. I cannot distinguish an elephant from a cow. It just means that the essence of the differences are kept in mind. When you look at other waves, the fact that all of them are nothing but water, even though they look different, but the essence of all the waves is kept in mind, naturally kept in mind, not forcefully kept in mind. What a beautiful thing it is once we realize that my Atma and your Atma are the same, not similar, but the same. And so your personality may be peculiar to your own upbringing and your etc., but fundamentally you are the same. It is kind of like, I was just thinking about this, it's kind of like supposing there is a day, a sunlight. There's only one light. There's only one light. It's not during the day, there's only sunlight. Now, it's very possible that we have different rooms that allow the sunlight to be blocked in different ways. Some have lots of windows where the sunlight is coming right through. Some of them have very few windows. Some of them have windows that are closed. Some of them are south facing. Some of them are east facing. Those are all possible. That's exactly what the situation is with our people. That really, when you say I, that I is the same when I say I. But how you cover it, with what degree you cover it. So in fact, and that's another thing I was just writing about as one of the tenets of Hinduism. Hindus do not, Vedikas or Hindus do not believe in evil. There is no such thing as a devil or an evil in Hinduism. Because this is a conundrum. This is a conundrum. Because we would like to think of Ishvara as the kindest, tolerant, loving person there is. And it's true. It's true. But where do we put evil into this whole equation? And different theological systems put them differently. They have problems with it. Where do you put evil? Because if you think this is all loving, all pervasive, and all forgiving and love, then we have terrorism. This guy who just killed 5 people. So where does that come from? Where is that? So people, other theologies deal with it differently. That's a devil that we have to conquer. It's almost like two are the same, in the same level. Hinduism doesn't say that. So the concept of evil or devil and so on is just a willful closing of the windows in a room where the outside light is denied. It doesn't mean that the outside light has disappeared. It is still there, but through the false actions of an individual, you live in darkness. You don't need to live in darkness. All you have to do, so here's the thing, is that you don't have to create light. See, this is the beauty of it. You don't have to create light. You have to stop blocking light, that's all. So therefore, the Samadarshinaha feels that even there is no such thing as an evil person. There is an evil deed. Yes, there is an evil deed. I still remember when this 9/11 happened, and so Swamiji had Swami Dayanandji had a session in Sailorsburg, roughly about 2 weeks after the 9/11 happened. I was supposed to go to that. I still remember that so well because, excuse me, all the airlines were cancelled. So I can get to Sailorsburg. I finally found a Delta flight through Cincinnati. I still remember this. So I go to this general session, and the memory of, because the Sailorsburg ashram is very close to New York. It's like 80, 90 miles. And just a few miles down, you can actually see the silhouette. I was just there of the World Trade Center. In fact, my whole family, we went to visit the Ground Zero. Have you ever been to Ground Zero? What a remarkable place it is. Just amazing. We didn't go up the elevator and we didn't see all of the things because we didn't have time. But anyway, so 9/11 had just happened. And there were a lot of people who were just stunned by it. And there were a lot of questions from the satsang about Swamiji about evil. That, what is the nature of it? Where does it reside? So Swamiji, exactly the same teaching, what he basically said was that there is no such thing as an evil person. But there is a possibility of an evil deed or even an evil concept. So here, in condemnation of the Islamic, really, if you want to talk about it, it is the evilness in the teaching. And the evilness in the teaching is that if you kill someone in the form of Allah, do it. Do it. It's okay. You will reach heaven. Stupidity. So there's evil concept that one can follow, but the person is the same. Is the same out. So therefore, really speaking, Samadarshinaha, to close off that, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaivaka Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshina. So Samadarshinaha means even when you see others misbehaving, they are also the jnani, the Samadarshinaha means that fundamentally the person is not evil. It is something like a disease that a person has, which will leave him. Very interesting thing is that if you were to, which is really a known fact, that the mother's love for the children is something incomparable. So, for example, supposing there is a person that has killed, who's and has done some really evil deed, the father and mother will look at that child differently. The father would say that is a terrible thing, and if you want to execute him, execute him. The mother will say, that's not my son. I don't know what got into him. See, look at the difference. She'll say, no, that's not, and the mother's viewpoint is the correct one. Because the mother will say, I don't know what happened to him. That's not him. I don't believe that. It's some kind of something possessed him. That's not him. This is what is called Samadarshina Pandita. So here the difference is that a Samadarshina, and this is possible for us to be that, get to that point where you can become a Samadarshina by understanding the differences, by separating the upadhi from the upahita. So the word upadhi means some kind of a seeming limitation which seems to limit the upahita, but it doesn't. Classical example is that of room space. Ghatakasha, Mahakasha. So in the room space, the room is the upadhi. The walls are the upadhi that makes the space look as though it is limited, when in fact it is not. So here's the situation that, really speaking, is Samadarshina knows the difference between upadhi and upahita, and an ajnani doesn't. The ajnani thinks that the reality of the room space is that it is the room space. But a jnani takes into account both the upadhi as well as the upahita. So therefore, it is possible, and in fact it is not only possible, it is imperative that we understand this distinction between the higher reality of the Atma and the lower reality of the Upadhi in this life itself. And if you do that, then you have reached the highest state, which we'll discuss in a minute, but this is what is being discussed in this Vidya. And this is further taken up in verse number 20. I think we'll have enough time to finish 21. To number 20. Prapya priyam na prashyeta. Na prashyeta. Prashyet, sorry. Prapya priyam na prashyet. I'm just looking at these. So the verse itself is na prashyet. My God, this is a difficult word. Prashyet. prahishyet means a sense of elation, facing the pleasant. And cha prapya apriyam na udvijet. Brahmavid sthira buddhihi asammudha sthita brahmani. So basically, just look at the English translation of that. Facing the pleasant, he is not elated, and facing the unpleasant, he is not depressed. A knower of Brahman is firm in knowledge, free from delusion, and is established in Brahman. So, again, the difference between a jnani and an agyani is given. An agyani means, which is very natural, that I am only dealing with what I am identified with. And I am identified with a limited person as my personality, which is dependent on the outside world. And I want things to be pleasant to me. And if they are unpleasant, then I am not a happy person. If someone says something to me or gives me some problems or something, then that is not a very pleasant situation for me. A jnani, on the other hand, when he has done this sannyasa properly, it does not matter to him. He's kind of like, he has become so rich that if someone cheats him for $100, it's okay. Let him have, it's okay. Let him do that. There's a story this is a true story. In Rishikesh, in the winter time, it gets very cold, very, very cold. It's no colder than here, but there is no central heating. That's the only thing. So inside of the house is the same as the outside of the house, maybe practically the same. So there's a true story about this Swami that used to live there. So one day he came back from satsang or something, and he came back to his room, and his blanket was missing. Double blanket, in fact, kind of like a rajai, which is a very thick contraption. That was missing. So he asked somebody. He said, has anybody seen my blanket? So the people who were taking care of the rooms, and they said, no, we have not seen it. Then one of the guys said, you know what? I saw a young boy who had wrapped up this blanket, and he was rapidly walking away. I think he has stolen it. So now the story begins. Everybody said to this, sir, I think your blanket has been stolen. So he says, who stole it? He says, well, there's a young boy who lives in the town and so on and so forth. Somewhere, we don't know where he is, but he's gone. He says, that's terrible. So they all said, really? What do you mean? He says, that blanket was so old and dirty. If I knew that he wanted something, we would have given him a better one than that. Look at this. This is a real story. People, they recite it in the Rishikesh. He was really sorry. He says, no, there's no problem. I'm going to get some other blanket. I would have given him the new blanket if he knew that much. This is the attitude of a Samadarshina. And so here, prapya priyam na prasyet, prapya apriyam na udvijet. He doesn't lose his equilibrium. What is that? There's a Western saying. What does it say? I'm trying to
mental equanimity.
Huh?
Mental equanimity.
No. I'm talking about something else. there's a saying that is useful in this kind of a thing. Just give me a second if I can remember it, otherwise I'll go on. Yeah. Bent out of shape. Bent out of shape. This is a very beautiful thing to see. So here's what happens. When you have a spring that has been pulled to such a degree that it cannot come back to its original shape, this is called bent out of shape. So what happens is an ajnani, because if some serious problem occurs or something, you become bent out of shape. That means you do not regain your mental equilibrium normally. You now are an affected person. So an ajnani would be a normal person would say, why do these things only happen to me? And I'm an unfortunate person, bent out of shape. Or in the case of being pleasant, you are so elated, more than what you deserve, because that elation also will not last. So all of this do not afflict the person who has thought through. Why? Because this is really what we have to I would say, keep this in mind. We need to experience an inner joy which is me, unaffected by the outside world, unaffected by even my mind. This is a discovery that we should aspire for, which is the truth. But in the sense of identification that I'm so busy with, I do not even look at it. So the sannyasa means, see, here's what happens. So the sannyasa, let's just spend sannyasa me. I am so dependent on my outside experience. When I say outside, means any experience. I'm so dependent on it that I cannot visualize that I have an independent source of happiness. Cannot even visualize it. I don't know it. It's not my experience. But it is true. It is something to be tapped and look into. This is what wisdom is all about. And it will not happen until I try it. And I give it a chance. Because I am so convinced about trying to get my happiness by manipulating things around me. So used to it that I don't realize I don't have to do it. And we are given a sample of it every night. What a beautiful thing what a creation of Ishvara. Do I manipulate anything at night time? Is my bucket list complete? No. Things are whatever they are, whatever problems there are there. They don't affect me. What a beautiful thing to see. It's just a sample. So the jnani, the samadarshina, the pandita, have to discover the fact that I am okay. And this fact has to be personally done by everyone. And part of that is that you keep on suffering through all kinds of things, and finally you discover. There's just like, for example, in our Purusharthas, so we have Artha, Kama, Dharma and Moksha. These are the 4 Purushartha that I'm sure you're all familiar with. So what happens is that Artha means a sense of possession and security. It's called Artha. Means that I must have lots of things to protect me. I must have a house, I must have a car, I must have enough money, health. This all comes under Artha. This is the most important thing that I'm concerned with in my life. And the next one is, if I have enough Artha, I go for Kama. So Kama means pleasure. That is, so for example, the good taste of the food comes under Kama. Music comes under Kama. Yoga comes under Kama. Sex comes under Kama. All of these things, this is the next stage. Not the next stage. In a way, it's the next stage. That first I'm concerned with Artha as a way of feeling good about myself. Then comes Kama. The Kama has nothing to do with protection or anything, my things and so on, but they are just experiences that make me feel good. Then, later on in my life, I discover Dharma as a source of happiness. Beautiful thing. I realize that if I just am generous, and several things. So Dharma also means following the code of life. Whatever I'm supposed to do, what my expectations are, others' expectations from me are, if I fulfill it, that gives me satisfaction. So this is a sense of duty, Dharma. And also selflessness. If I help others with money or my time, it gives me great satisfaction. It was not there in the beginning. You cannot, because the child is, unless you're from the previous life, the child doesn't think of that. So Artha comes first, then comes Kama, then comes Dharma. So Dharma is a very interesting thing, that my previous concept that everything must be for me doesn't have to be for me to be happy. Beautiful experience. It is in a way similar to deep sleep. Swami Dayanand used to say that, So you ask everybody, so how's your life? And they'll say, Swamiji, it's chalta hai, means it's okay. I mean, okay, write it down. What do you mean? When will you be totally happy? When will you be totally happy? He says, okay, write it down. Everybody gives 20 points on how will you be. So you write down, okay, my health should be better. Number 2, I need a bit more money. Number 3, my job needs to be better. And my daughter needs to be married into a good family. And my son needs to go to Harvard. And so you have those 20 different things and so on. Then you say, then you'll be happy. He says, yes, then I'll be happy. What are the chances of these things all coming together? I'm hopeful. I don't know. I'm hopeful. Then you go to sleep. Deep sleep. Dreamless sleep. Has your son gone into Harvard? No. Has your daughter been married to a good family? No. Is your job totally happy? No. So none of these bucket lists are satisfying, but you're still very happy. This should tell us something. So sannyasa, so sthira buddhi asammudha brahmavid brahmani sthitaha, in the second line of number 20, means that I discover that my insistence on having everything around me to be very pleasant is stupidity. Don't need that. It is your own preference. It's just like saying, I want sunlight, but I don't want to open my doors of the windows. Stupidity. It's there for you to take, but you just have to get your mind wrapped around the fact that the happiness is your own nature. Just discover it. And that only comes from sannyasa. It does not just come from nyasa, but from sannyasa, samyak nyasa. So I think we can even finish number 21. Bahya sparsheshu asaktatma vindati atmani yat sukham saha brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam asnute. Asaktatma, bahya sparsh. I've actually all been talking about this. This is already given. This is a very good summary of what we have just talked about. So let me quickly go through this. Asaktatma bahya sparsheshu. Asakta means, this is an interesting word. Sakta means one, I am totally convinced that I need my happiness from outside. Totally. No question about that. I got to really have good food and be very secure. This is important for me. I got to have that. What are you talking about? What else is there? This is what he calls sakta. And so asaktatma bahya sparsheshu means the one who is no longer that deeply attached. So asakta means deep attachment, solid attachment. One who has discovered that is not necessary. Just like dharma. In the case of dharma, this is a very beautiful example, that just like in a dharma, you find you are happier now by being selfless than you were when you were selfish. This is a discovery for each one of us. It comes late in life and not for everyone. Similarly here also he says, I don't have to be sakta of the outside. I can just be myself, what I am. Because in the beginning I said, no. My whole thing is that I have to be a successful person, people should respect me, and all of those kinds of things. And the discovery that I don't need to do it. I'm okay the way I am. This is what is called asaktatma bahya sparsheshu vindati sukham yadatmani. That once you see that in fact the source of joy is Paramatma, which is nothing but me alone. There is no difference between Jivatma and Paramatma. This is the discovery of Ishvara as myself. I need to give a chance to, and the more I look at it, the better, the faster, and then it starts to reverberate. Then it starts to increase. And then the sannyasa takes wings. And the sannyasa is not physical sannyasa. It's not as though I have to just sit myself in a corner untouched with. No. It just means that this saktaha, this deep attachment, is discovered to be not necessary. This is the beauty of it. So, asaktatma bahya sparsheshu vindati sukham yad atmani saha brahma yoga yuktatma ashnute akshayam sukham. This discovery is just incredible because it is not imported from outside. It is not a cookie which is sweet, but it is sweetness itself. It is the very swarupa of the Ananda. And that being the case, nothing stops it. There is no sarga, no change, no nothing. This is you. So this is what we have to aspire to, because it is the highest goal in life. So with this, the section on jnanam is wrapped up, and so this is what Jivan Mukti is all about. So, having said that, then Krishna will change gears and go into a couple of other things. But this is the whole section, starting with 11, and starting with 13 to 21, which recreates the very nature of vidya, the very process of gaining this knowledge, and what happens, how it happens, and so on. So I'm very happy to have covered that. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityo Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti